So it's lovely to be here today. I'm playing just a very small part to introduce the day, and I'm going to stay here and see this wonderful celebration of completing this program. So I'm going to start with an acknowledgement of country before we kick off. So I'd like to acknowledge the Wodja people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land they're meeting today, and acknowledge their elders, past, present, and future. I'd also like to welcome Scope Training, Dr. Nathan Archer, who you all know very well. You've become got to know each other a lot over the last 12 months. And we have some other people from the Scope team here today. Welcome to Stefan, thank you for taking our photos as always. Welcome to our guests, Ian and Lindsay. Yes.
You saw me.
And also welcome to our participants and your special guest today. We're here to celebrate this graduation ceremony after 12 months, and I'm imagining that feels like a really long time, or it felt like a long time when you were going through it. You are here today. We're here to recognise and celebrate the completion of the Cert for Leadership and Management, which you got to today. So, woo! So welcome, enjoy today. It's all about you today. You don't have to actually do any work. I'm going to say bye now and just join in on the celebration. But before I do, I'd like to welcome our Managing Director, Cameron, to come and offer his congratulations and words of wisdom as he takes this journey forward. Again, thank you.
I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. Congratulations. If I can add mine, and Linley's here as well, really pleased. From a corporate executive perspective, we really believe in this, and I'm delighted that Linley and your managers can be here today on this very proud day. Now, despite what you believe, you do have to do some work, and you haven't yet passed. There are two questions that you need to answer. The first one is, who remembers me giving a welcome speech? All right, you passed. All right. Who remembers what I said?
I used to work as a school teacher and dance coach.
All right, we're giving out A's, B's. Okay, so there's a start. No, thank you. It's probably more of a message to myself in terms of just making sure I keep this short and sweet, and I guess things that are relevant for you. But just to reiterate from the start, from my perspective and from the corporate executive, and really pleased, that Linley can be here, as I said, that there's no more important investment that we make in you for the work that you do with the people that work with you and to you. As I may have said, apart from the school teacher journey, I may have said this organisation isn't an organisation without its people, and people need to be really well led and well managed. And there's lots of examples of that. I'm going to tie it to our values work in a minute, but before I do that, we had an example the other day in a meeting context. Linley was actually there. There was direction being sought and clarity being sought, and managing director and half the corporate executive there, but I couldn't give one direction. I could advise on what we expected from a matter of balance and perspective, but it actually required local decisions to be made in branches, in workplaces, in offices. That's a perfect example of where, while I'm accountable for everything, I can't be managing and directing everything. And if I was, this would be an awful organisation to work in, and it wouldn't function. So, an example of why our investment in your roles as people managers, as in leaders, is really critical. Because what we can do is set direction, we can set expectations, culture, values, policy, etc. But there are so many other decisions that need to be made daily, hopefully not by the minute, but certainly daily and weekly, interpreted and localised and applied. We have rules, regulations, legislation that sometimes is non-negotiable and there is no room. But there are other times where, okay, what are we trying to achieve here and what's a decision? And if every one of those decisions came to me, you'd be waiting a long time for that. So a very simple example of why it's so important that in an organisation like this, so diverse and so statewide and so customer driven, that people such as yourselves, people managers, leaders are supported. And I may have said before that sometimes we find ourselves in leadership through a couple of circles. One is I'm a technical expert and I've risen up and then I've got people working for me. Or in other cases, I've been here a while, I know a bit around the place. Not everyone has had the opportunity to get this training. So we're committed to it. I may have also said that public sector, the seminar I went to a couple of years ago, they examined 5 public services. I remember 4 of them: Australia, New Zealand, England and Canada. Can't remember the 5th one. But what they found traditionally is that organisations traditionally underinvest in people managers. So there's lots of things for senior people, there's lots of things for customer and very direct interface people. But often the managers, people in the middle, in the police service, sergeants and senior sergeants, people who are managing other people, often the training programs are not there, or that they habitually underspend or underinvest in those areas. So I'm really pleased, and so is the corporate executive, that we have this program and that it's a very proud day for you folk today to be coming through that, and I'm really, really pleased for you. And I would expect out of that, you've learned a few things. What have you learned? What's one interesting thing that you learned or you think has made a difference for you out of this program? This is not part of the test, by the way. You have all passed. This is more of a test. I'm just testing Nathan to see how well he's done. What's one thing that perhaps comes to mind for you that sort of changed? Don't squirm. It's all right. What's something that's occurred to you that over this 12 months that it is? What have you sort of reflected on personally that perhaps changed you, or something that's helped you in this?
I think there's no one size fits all management style. You just manage different people in different ways, and I think that was a fairly good revelation to have.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Plan your day. Always have the end in mind.
Yep.
I find it more and more every day that that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, good. Good.
Probably not to, anyone can manage, but not everyone can lead.
Yep.
And to be a good manager, you need to be a good leader, I think.
Good.
Bright spots. What you know is what you know. The other thing is, there are things that you don't know, and sometimes you need to see others to see the other areas.
Yeah. Right.
Good leader to be an emotionally intelligent leader.
Yep. Good. Really interesting. You passed. You're right.
Vice Street Lane.
I forgot my wallet. No, that's great, and I think there's no words of wisdom from me. I think that's really interesting, and I think I have said before to groups that at the end of the day, we can achieve a lot on our own. It's rare in organisations like this that you work alone, and certainly working as a people manager, you don't. We can achieve a lot more by working in groups and in teams. And as leaders and managers, it is, as a couple of you have said, it is all about what are we here for? What are we trying to achieve overall? And then how do we work together to do that? And it's all the things you mentioned: communication, emotional intelligence, being organised, being planned, but also respecting and valuing the differences. we as managers, as leaders, one thing that will get me grumpy, not many things do, but if I feel that people are just telling me what, they expect me to want to hear and things like that, the corporate executive knows I want different opinions. We don't have to agree with every opinion or perspective, but we'll get a better outcome if we've actually been able to harness the perspectives in the team or around the table at the time. Is there something that we haven't thought of? There's a phenomena called group think. If you work in groups and that, sometimes a group can just go with the flow, ships can run aground because people are thinking the same way all the time. So pilots, if you've ever studied, it's fascinating, if you've ever studied how flight decks work in large commercial airliners, I encourage you to have a look at it. But essentially there is a division of labour and there are perspectives in that. When there are things going wrong, there are roles, and it is about trying to get different perspectives on problem solving. Because every alarm doesn't tell them exactly what's going wrong. And if you look at the 747, that predates a lot of you, but there was a jumbo jet many years ago flying over Indonesia, lost power at all 4 engines at 30,000 feet. They recovered that aircraft, and what's fascinating about that story is that the teamwork enabled that flight crew to recover that aircraft. Interestingly, they didn't know what the problem was. They had no idea what had caused the problem. They didn't know while they were in flight. They recovered the aircraft and they safely landed afterwards. It was only afterwards that the story was unpicked and they worked out what went on. If you ever get a chance, have a look at it. He's now retired, that captain, but the story he would tell was of the teamwork and his role as the leader. And his role as the leader often wasn't to get sucked into doing the job of others. There was only about 4 of them, and they had no idea what the problem was. And didn't know until after they landed. So imagine yourself in that situation in a small team, not knowing the problem, but knowing that you had to do something about keeping the aircraft in the air, but you didn't know what was causing the problem. So the teamwork in that and the way that they work, it's not something I sort of imagined with aircrew. Later it sort of made sense to me. But it's exactly the same for us, the importance of that teamwork and your roles as managers and as leaders in making sure that teamwork, and that's within your team. And as you know, then depending on the work that you do, that will be with other teams as well. How you as a leader and how you as a manager ensure that your team can work effectively with other teams. With Lindley and I and the corporate executive, it's often then how do we work with other agencies and other organisations. Many of the things we're doing now are collaborative, not only across the department, but across the public sector. This department is doing things that are, leveraging our expertise in the Department of Transport, in customer service, in IT systems. We're doing fishing licenses, we're doing NDIS checks. There are things that we're doing that are beyond our traditional core business. Why? Because our purpose is now about supporting a thriving community. And where we can, is it reasonable for us to do things that we haven't done in the past? And I may have said to you in the first time round that what we were doing 10 years ago is not the same as 5 years ago. It won't be the same as in 5 years' time. Community is evolving, our climate's changing around us. We're being asked to do different things all of the time for our customers, for our community. And your role in staying tuned into those and working with others is really important, because our brand is how people find us. Are we helpful? Are we really supporting people with their transport needs as part of a thriving community? And so, your leadership role in understanding that context and then seeing what you can do in your part of the business, working with others to help us achieve that purpose. Often when we're unsure, we need to be guided by things, and we've got policies, we've got procedures, but we've also got our values. And increasingly, when I'm struggling with, which is the right way to go here, fall back to values. And it's those values of, our collaboration, our accountability, those are the things that you sort of work backwards from and help guide you. as I may have said before, it's not in our core values, but, certainly principles of trust, integrity, the quality of relationships that we form are really important. It's possible to do things without trust, but it's a lot harder. So as leaders and as managers, it's really important, all those things that you can demonstrate around trust, integrity, those values about how people work, how you work with people are really important. People are watching you. As a leader, they're watching you. They're watching all your bad habits and all the things that you do and all the rest of it. And that's both a powerful thing, it's also a responsibility, but that modelling and how you go about things, how you problem solve with people, how you listen is really important. So I'm repeating obviously lots of parts of the course, but I'm really pleased to hear what you've taken out of it. That gives Nathan a gold star, as I said before, but very simply on behalf of Lindley, myself and the corporate executive, congratulations to your managers and those that have supported you through this journey as well. Families and the home connection, I'm sure there was extra work and homework you had to do at times. Thank you to them for the support they've given you, and really look forward to how you find this course going forward. So, well done.
You did, thank you so much. I always find your speaking about management leadership and the fact that you place such importance on providing training in those areas to be so inspiring, so thank you. Next up we have two of our participants who are going to speak about this. So we've got Matt West up next, who is the Policy Program Manager at the department.
No one else has that problem. No one else has that problem. So I'm sure none of you are sick of hearing me talk yet. So I'm Matt West. I'm in the freight team, for those who don't know me. Thanks, Ian. Thank you, everyone. So just going to have a quick chat about my experience in the program, what I've learned and what I've taken away. So I initially applied for the program to sort of demonstrate that I was interested in being a manager. I think as Ian rightly pointed out, you can kind of get to management by being a subject matter expert, but there's I think this is a better opportunity and pathway to lead people. I honestly didn't know what I'd signed up for at the beginning, but I went into it, as with most things, fairly optimistic, enthusiastic, and pretty naive. I think it's been fantastic to be in a cohort that's so diverse in terms of people from all aspects of the DOT business. Being in the policy area, sometimes you don't necessarily engage with the front-facing side of things, so meeting people who are actually in off script. Many people who are in the customer delivery side of things was fantastic. I've made some fantastic friends as well. Had a great time, lots of laughter. Some highlights were the class activities. So I quite enjoyed the stick one, the Lego. You can see how focused I am. Definitely a highlight.
Masters series, were you?
Prick me. Oh wow, that was really good. I also really enjoyed filming the AMAs that we did with our team from the Shark team. It was a great opportunity to get to know DOT team members a lot better and understand that I'm pretty rubbish behind the camera. Sort of jumping all over the place, I apologise. I wrote notes and now here I am kind of going everywhere. I think what I've taken away from the program is obviously amazing friendships, a greater appreciation for the skill set that underpins leadership. I've been quite lucky to have some fantastic managers over my journey, and understanding the theory that kind of goes behind what makes a great manager has been really good. And I think as someone said, it's managing, anyone can do it. Being a leader is actually a different sort of skill set. And I guess one of the final lessons is to finish well and lead positively. So to that, I'd like to thank my managers who supported me in applying for this course and throughout the journey. DOT for providing the opportunity. Nathan, you've been inspiring and very engaging. I've really enjoyed every minute of learning with you. And congratulations to the PMP. It's total wonderfully done.
Next up, we've got Augusti, who is the team leader out at the West Perth licensing section for DBS.
Hello everybody, my name is Gusti. A few familiar faces at the back, hello. I'm a team leader at CUS. And before I start, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. We are meeting on today, the Waichapunua people, and pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And also I wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and contribution they make to the life of the sea and the region. Thank you again, thank you Lindley. Thank you our managers for giving us this opportunity. To be honest, when our manager says you have to sign up, I was like, really? Really? But then again, I'm enthusiastic, a bit skeptic, and also curious. Nathan was great and not sure how open I can be with the group, and then the next second everyone is boom, 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 boom. Oh wow, this is a safe spot, this is a safe place, and this is a very great bunch of people who are willing to share, not afraid to share their opinions, and we'll work together to find things. And I find that throughout my journey, like Sarah there is my first trainer has helped me with all when I got here, and Belinda, the first one, gave me the opportunity to stepping up and give me quite extensive guidance. So I thank both of you. Apologize, Haley can't be here because we have 4 people down and we have to man the center. Wow, PMPA. I guess we all kind of realize that we've been doing it, but the knowledge that we have, the guidance that we get, the sharing that we do, make us realize that there's a validation, there's things that we do, we go into the right way. And like when you ask the question, I find myself more and more starting with the beginning with the end in my mind, planning my day. I want to do like this going forward, planning my recruitment, planning my training, planning my HTA. I feel like everyone in each conversation are having the same kind of feelings of what we go through together. And then more and more I find myself in Def 1-5. COVID situation, we plan everything should be perfect. Boom, 5 people not in. Also, a lot of things that we were sharing in there, I find it also became second nature now. With understanding emotional intelligence, I feel like came into the course, I know nothing about it. Then I feel like, okay, now I'm aware about it. I'm finding myself more and more enthusiastic to learn about it and applying in my workplace. And also, I'm finding more this work at home as well with my kids, with the, beginning with the end. Not so much with my wife. I kind of go with her end. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. That was great. Next up, we have Nathan to speak. Nathan Archer,
Matt Gusti, that what you just said is the whole reason I became a trainer and a leadership expert. And I guess standing up here following that, it really does warm my heart to understand that I did make a difference, and that's all I could have hoped to do. So, team, I want to stand here and just say that I'm absolutely humbled and honoured that all of you have got to this point. And I'm not so honoured by the fact that you committed to the journey, but I'm honoured at how much you opened up to yourselves individually. I'm honoured by the work you put in, but I'm also honoured that you trusted me enough to open up. And like Gusti said, coming in on that first day and is this going to be a safe place? And you guys are the ones that made it a safe place. I could set that up, but you guys had to get in and actually make it a safe place, and you did. So thank you and well done. So in August last year, we started this Cert 4, and on day one, I asked you a question right at the start. I said, what does leadership require? Can anybody remember the one word? What does leadership require?
Trust.
Trust. One word starts with P, ends in mission, permission. Leadership requires permission. Leadership is a privilege, not a right or a title. And we started by saying leadership requires permission. It requires permission from those who we're leading. They need to be invested in the mission. They need to be invested in where we're going. Otherwise, we're not leading them. We're telling them what to do and we're ordering them around. They're not there with their heart and soul. And do you remember the second type of permission that leadership requires? Obviously I wasn't that effective. We have to give ourselves permission. We have to give ourselves permission to be leaders, to take on that responsibility. And I think every one of you has, through the assignments, through what you submitted, has shown me that there's been times where you have stepped up and you've taken that permission and the outcomes have been fantastic. And there's been times when you've taken that permission and the outcomes haven't been exactly what you expected them to be. And that's the joy of learning. That's the joy of the journey. So, as we go forward, I'd like you to look at these pieces of paper, these certificates, these Cert 4s in Leadership and Management that you have earned. And I want you to look at the permission that you've given yourself to be a student over the last 12 months, to learn, to risk, to fail, and to get it right in the long run. And also moving forward, not that the certificate gives you permission to be a leader, you were already leaders, but it gives you more permission to instill what you've learned in other people. So I've got a few thank yous to make as well. There's been a lot of thank yous today, but I'd like to honour Alex, Kate, Joe, your team, because without you, we couldn't have had the course, and especially during the COVID issues with moving online and all that kind of stuff. You guys have done a wonderful job. I'd like to also acknowledge my scope team, so Zoe, who's at the back. Many of you might have spoken to Zoe on the phone when you had to unlock assignments, or Maddie in the early days, or Kate. Simon, who is responsible for listening to me record all of those videos and then listening to me as he edits all of those videos. So you think you've watched them once, he's seen them at least 3 times. Yeah, so he's very bored of me as well. I'd like to thank my co-trainers Jess and Jane, who obviously aren't here today, but who saved you from my bad jokes for a couple of sessions, those who had those guys. To the managers who are here and team members, I'd like to honour you guys by saying thank you to you for giving these guys permission to not be at work for 10 days and to be filling their shifts and having other people step up. And also when they came back from the workshops, to give them the opportunities to do their assignments, to give them staff to lead, but also make mistakes with. That's risky. So thank you to you guys as leaders and managers of these guys, that you were able to invest in them and take that risk. Is there any family members here, or are we all? No?
All family.
All family, okay. We're DOT family. So I'd like you guys to go back and say thanks to your family members And I've got written down here that I hope my name wasn't sworn about too much in the assignments. But think about the journey they played in the last 12 months with you going through this. Because it was work, you know. Matt, you said you didn't know what you'd signed up for. Your family probably didn't either. And you came back after module 1 going, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And some people did some emotional intelligence and communication with their, wife. And sorry, Gusti, I couldn't solve your problems. But so thank you to the family members who journeyed with you through this. Thank you to Amanda, Isabeau, Ian and Lindley for believing in this so much. And I think, as you said at the start, so many organisations don't invest in their leaders, and having that promotion from the top really makes a difference. So really appreciate that. And on that, there's an old saying, you might have heard it. A CFO asks the CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and they leave? And the CEO turns to the CFO and says, what happens if we don't and they stay? And we started with 20. We lost 3 people along the way. 3 people left our cohort. 3, through COVID illnesses or not being able to attend modules, have joined cohort 2. But 14 of you are here. 14 of you have stayed. And I believe, actually, I know from the assignments and the feedback I've already got, that you have changed DOT. If the CFO was to say to the MD, what if we invest in them and they go? I'm sure Ian would turn back and say, but what if they stay? And what will this do for our organisation? And we're already seeing the fruit. From your innovation assignments, we're already seeing the fruit. From other assignments where, Claudetta, it was you implemented a team growth assignment and your team became number 1 at C3 over the 3 months. Am I right? Yeah. So out of how many teams? 7 teams. Through doing this course and implementing the assignment, your team became number 1. That's proof that this investment paid dividends. So as I finish off, if we can, thank you. As I finish off, I put this photo of Ripples on the screen. And if you remember back, and I've probably spoken about it a number of times, the 4 square metre rule. Who comes into your 4 square metres on a daily basis? Or if you're on the phone, if you're in a call centre working with somebody, who do you get to encourage? And what ripples are you making in their lives? And your team members come into your 4 square metres a lot of the time, probably not during COVID because we're trying to keep personal space, but you get what I mean. So you're here today because somebody believed in you. And Gusti, you mentioned a couple of people at the back who believed in you. And Gusti being here today is a ripple of you guys believing in him. So moving forward, you may never know the ripples that you create. Hopefully good ripples, not bad ones. You may never know the moments where you speak into somebody's life and make a real difference. And that's okay. The job is to keep speaking and making a difference, because you never know when somebody's sitting here because of something you said, because of something you did moving forward in your career with DOT. So I want to say again that team, it's been an absolute true honour to have walked with you through this journey. It was only the journey it was because you opened up to it and you made it the journey you was. You may never know the difference you made, but you will make a difference as you move on from this course. I encourage you to, as we give out certificates in just a sec, to honour yourself, honour the investment that DOT has made in you individually, honour the time that your managers and your team members have given you to be here and work on this for 12 months. Honour those around you, lead with honour, and honour the ripples that you might not know you're making, but those ripples will change the world. Well done, team.
Thank you so much, Nathan. It's amazing. Next up, we've got just not just, we've got a presentation that has been pulled together from some of the graduates that put things in. So pardon? So I'll just get that going.
It's good.
Oh, that's me.
By putting in focus what I've learned over the past 12 months with the People Managers program, the change for me has been huge. I've moved away from an incredibly time-consuming hobby and I've spent more time with my family and friends. I now prioritise what's important in my life, rather than getting bogged down with unimportant things. This has changed my disposition for the better. I've put a greater value on interactions I have with others at work. I've never had any problems with engaging in those difficult conversations that can happen in an office environment. But now I go about those conversations in a better way. Always try to achieve the win-win solution rather than settling for a win-lose result. I've also managed to develop myself professionally within DOT by working with the coastal facilities team at different offices. I had the opportunity to work out of the Hillary's office as well as the Fremantle Harbour office. I feel that learning different programs like Maximo, as well as undertaking completely different work to what my substantive role has been, has made me a better employee and now understand more of what the maritime section of DOT do. I would strongly encourage anyone who can do a secondment within DOT to get out of their comfort zone and give it a go. You'll learn so much and it will create great working relationships with other staff. My key takeaways from this program have been managers better understand why management do what they do, such as task allocation for better use of resources, how staff are mentored, not a one-size-fits-all approach, and workloads, why some people have more work than others to do in order to achieve team goals. Leadership, it requires permission, and influence is a product of trust. It's suggestive and it's about feelings. Emotional intelligence. This was a real eye-opener for me. It made me realise that my EI is very high in some areas and not so good in others. Now it's so important to let go of any mistakes, be aware of my strengths and weaknesses, to eliminate anything that's toxic, allow time to disconnect, be confident in who I am. At work, I've tried to implement different work methods such as the Pomodoro method, so working in time cycles, but I didn't find it effective for me. I've ended up reading a lot of books and watching YouTube videos. People like Daniel Goleman and Simon Sinek have been really helpful for me. Working as a team with different people within this intake has been really enjoyable for me. I'm so impressed with how everyone has something different to give as part of any team-based tasks. It got me to realise how important diversity is in the workplace, and I was really impressed with the valuable insight that others shared. I'm particularly impressed with the staff that work at DBS centres, as they can put up with a lot, but they remain so positive. Apologies to everyone in the intake for the times I had too much fun with the group-based activities. Pretty sure half the building at 140 would have heard the laughter during these fun activities. And I'd also like to thank each and every staff member who I met at the B&B and hope to keep in touch with the future.
Nothing to say.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening there.
Start on the next slide.
When you start the presentation, it starts from the beginning again.
Great.
Is it bottom one?
Oh, yes, okay. So the left, that one, yeah.
Oh, no,
Weird.
We can skip my now.
Scroll through that.
There you go, technical support all the way. I'll take support. Oh, good here, just.
Wouldn't be PMP without some technical. It's not an apple. We never had problems with the apple though. One more time, and I'm going to pass you the certificates, and then we're going to call people up. So, Z. Come and jump in the middle, Z, and go and take a photo. Yeah, just outside, go that way.
Oh,
There.
good
That's
side,
it. Keep going,
good
keep going,
side.
keep going. There you go.
I guess it's all right.
Well done. Jason.
Okay. I'm gonna go that way. That's a leadership.
Lindsay.
Tell me about the X19.
One more because
Cat. Alicia.
Oh,
Just because the screen's on your face.
screen's on my face.
Yeah. Ex-photographer, I can't.
Gusty's sitting on the chair.
Yeah, we've skipped one. Gusty. Oh, well, okay. For whatever reason, we're out of
constant hall, so it's okay.
Managed to thank you.
And Claudette for being patient. Will? Ginger. And Chris. Well done.
Thanks.
And Nat.
Thank you.
And Anita.
Thank you. And as you can see, the next is just thank you. You've all done an amazing job, and thank you to the participants and the managers who supported them. You've done great. Congratulations. And there is a lovely soundtrack to play, but it's not going to play now.
You need like caps.
So usually we just move some of the chairs aside and have some photos taken. Well, it's supposed to be in front of the banner, but you won't be able to see the banner. But in front of the banner. So if you would like to have your photo taken, I'd love the participants to go over, and then we can have some group photos with managers if you'd like as well.
And I have a